few hundred years, whenever there's an economic downturn, extremism makes inroads into the population. And when you don't have a leading figure, such as a president, that will take the time to educate the people and motivate them, we're going to have a problem. And I have resigned myself that there's a problem here. I don't see any way out, given the forces that control a lot of the press and the television, and we don't have one figure that will motivate or organize the electorate.
Well, I do think the Supreme Court...
You said, excuse me, just one not say.
Go ahead.
Yes, of course, but you said Obama has the heart in his right place. I'm going to use a phrase that was applied to Churchill when he was very young. He may be just a phrasemonger. He's a great speaker, and he may just be doing this tactically to become president. But I think he's a failure.
Yeah, I think there's much to be said on both sides of that question.
Yeah, I seem to be noticing a recent trend in the magazine that may be not quite accurate on this, but that trend seems to be a little bit, a couple of the editions where you're doing something that you haven't traditionally done, and that is a kind of self-reflexive turn. In other words, like the recent series of articles on American Jews and how they feel, in an interior sense almost, about the state of Israel. And then there was a series on the younger people who are obviously not yet famous or public intellectuals or anything of that nature. And what are their kind of personal experiences as they get into their social roles. And I wonder if that is indeed a new kind of editorially you've been thinking about that as a as a new possibility, and then how would you, if it is indeed so, how would you ultimately synthesize that with the importance of objective analysis of situations and events?
We've always been a magazine of warriors. That's been one of the central themes of Dissent, because it began with people reconsidering their ideological positions and moving out of the Marxist sects and founding, as Mara said, a genuinely ecumenical magazine open to people who wanted to argue about all of the things that had once been certainties on the left, and we've continued to do that. This discussion of American Jews and Israel, we have had many fierce debates over long years about Middle East, about Israeli policies, American policies. Now the group of articles called the Under 30 articles, there will be a third installment in the next issue. That is a new project. And it's Nick Mills, who isn't here today, is the editor of this series, and we're actually looking, so far unsuccessfully, for a book publisher who would be interested in publishing them. We've had a series of young people writing about their first experiences in politics. We asked a group of people to write about relationships. And in the next issue, we have a group writing, Nick's title is Not So Innocents Abroad, about Americans working in visiting and working in other countries. And we hope to have further installments. Nick's original goal was 30 under 30. And these are all new writers.
Remember that Irving Howe and his generation had a kind of division of labor as they saw the New York intellectual world. They left the cultural matters to partisan review. They left the Jewish matters to commentary. And as far as personal matters, that was something that was ruled out entirely. They did not believe. Irving Howe's autobiography, after all, virtually leaves out anything personal or whatever, So these are, Dissent could not have continued in that vein. And of course, the whole issue of Jews in Israel is primarily an issue for the left more than anything else, because unlike earlier years, the left and especially in Europe, has been in the vanguard of not only anti-Israel, but in some ways, anti-Semitism.
I run a trade union college here in the city, and I've worked with the labor union for 40 years. And I guess I would want to say, in response to some of the comments, one, how positive, Dissent for me, and magazines like Dissent, which are the source incubators of ideas, are very important to what I do and to my ability to tell people who are, among the more atomized and among the more stressed individuals, that there are reasons for hope, that society isn't built just out of material factors, it's built out of one's imagination, and that one can in fact shape one's reality that way and bring people along with you when you do so, if you can do it in a compelling way. And magazines like Dissent are important and indispensable for doing that, and it's always proved that way. It does, of course, to me at least, in my experience, it's a little bit in tension with Michael's reluctance to embrace ideology. I do in fact think we need to be ideological, that there are many ways to be ideological, not just the old bad way, and that we need to be ideological because that's what mobilizes people's imagination. They're not complicated thinkers, most of us. In fact, none of us probably. We just, some of us can go on longer than others, but it really boils down to one or two simple truths, and that's the heart of the matter, and that to me is very important. And I've seen among my students who are electricians, carpenters, painters, classroom aides, 20-something, in the last 6 months, a level of energy, of commitment, of a desire to defend their values and their ways of life, that they feel suddenly now the sheep is, the sheep's clothing has fallen from the wolf, they feel. And they're like suddenly brought up short about this, and there's an incredible energy among them that requires imagination at the heights as well as the energies at the base to be successful. So it's just a great thing what you've all done for these years, and what we hope we can keep doing.
Michael, can you? I have to leave. I'm afraid I'm committed to a conference in Annapolis that starts early tomorrow morning on just war theory. But I wanted to say something to Stanley about, because we all share that grim sense of stalemate and powerlessness on the left. But there is one reason to keep going, is the sheer unpredictability of the political world. Not a single Soviet expert predicted the collapse of communism in 1989. Not a single American Arab specialist in the Arab world predicted the uprisings across the whole of the Arab world. So we have to be ready for the unexpected. We want to be there. No one, when these black kids sat in at a Woolworth's lunch counter in North Carolina, no one anticipated that. The South looked dismal. And suddenly there they were, and they changed in small ways over the years, but they changed the world. So we need to be there when people do things like that, to support them and to argue about how it's going, because those arguments are what sustain us. And I'm sorry that I have to leave, but that's what